Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Kathy with Duality Unfolding. So I have a reading for you about a fork in the road, being at a crossroads. I do like a weekly energy reading. It's usually like a 1 minute reel or a TikTok, whatever. And the thing that came up when I was doing the reading was being at a fork in the road, needing to make a choice, and then shifting timelines. So that's essentially what this reading is going to be about. It's inspired by the short that came up today, or the TikTok that came up today. And so essentially this reading is going to be kind of two readings in one. So it's a pick a card. So you'll pick whichever, group you want based on these crystals and the choosing cards that I will show you. But essentially I'm going to do a tarot reading about one choice or the other, essentially kind of looking at like a fork in the road, like what happens if you take this direction, what happens if you take this direction, just to offer some guidance. I feel like there's been some really big energy that has kind of shifted things for a lot of people. With the solar flares that were coming through, like a lot of people saw the aurora borealis in places that you never would have thought you would see it. And then a lot of us slept through it, but hey, it is what it is. But I have three groups for you to choose from today for this kind of fork in the road, making a choice, quantum leap, shifting timelines reading. So group number one, the crystal that I have to help you choose is this fluorite heart. And your card is Taurus, with cultivate. Group number two, the crystal that I have for you is this flower agate point. And your card is Gemini, cross-pollinate. And group number three, your crystal is this amethyst moon. And your card is the seventh house, relationship. Okay. So, as always, timestamps are in the description, or you can scroll to see the chapters and go to your reading based on that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the reading, and I will see you in whichever reading that you choose. Hello, group number one. So if you chose the fluorite heart crystal and the Taurus card, this is your reading. So I have three tarot and three oracle cards. Six tarot and six oracle, kind of segmented into two groups to take a look at your reading. So let's see what's in store for you. Essentially, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay. I was trying to move the camera back far enough that I could show everything, but I don't think that I can zoom out far enough to have all the cards together, but maybe let's see. All right. Let's see if we can get all these in here. Oh yeah, look at us. Look at us. Sorting this out. Okay. So, these, obviously you can see there's different imagery, right? Like there's different oracle cards, different tarot cards. So, this is going to be one path. And this is going to be the other path. And so with this, actually, let me talk about the fluorite crystal. So as you can see, it is green and purple, right? So we've got some heart chakra and we've got some third eye, maybe even crown chakra with like a little bit of the lighter kind of white purple that's in here. So fluorite it's a really great crystal for healing, but it's also like this kind of combined energy, of the heart and the intuition. I mean, I would argue that your intuition, lives in your heart, and also comes from source. So it's really kind of a crystal that represents like one thing traveling in two different directions, so to speak, or like coming to us in two different ways. With this Taurus card, it's connected to the second house. We're in Taurus season right now when I'm recording this. But the second house and the Taurus energy has to do with what is like tangible, like kind of a lot of times people refer to it as creature comforts. Taurus is known for kind of luxury, but not in the sense of like luxuriousness as far as like wealth. Taurus is associated with money, but the luxuriousness of what Taurus craves has to do with like comfort, right? Like the things that feel good, the food that tastes good, the things that look nice, and comfort in association with our five senses, because Taurus is a very sensual sign, like very kind of indulgent in the human experience, right? That like as human beings, we have the opportunity to have like really in-depth conversations, to like have these really kind of luxurious, abundant, like mental experiences that like other species don't get to have. The luxuriance of like really decadent food, or, the opportunity to like live both in nature, but also indoors. So Taurus is about like these kind of tangible, like physical things, food and money and clothes, and like the tangible things that we can experience, in life. And with this, message of cultivating like this with the second house has to do with, money, value, worth, love, but really like more, I feel like self-love than like romantic love. And so I feel like you're kind of being invited to cultivate something differently in your life than where you are right now. Also like oxes, like Taurus is associated with the bull, but I think of like bulls and oxes as like very kind of similar, animals like that are used for farming, and they're, strong. They're able to really like kind of pull their weight, right? Like with a bull, like they can trample people, they can knock things down, and then with an ox, like they can pull things behind them, like to till the land, or they can like pull things, to transport, like I don't know, like maybe like logs or different things like that. And so this, it feels like there's this strength, this building, this value, this self-worth. So the shift that you might have been through recently is just really kind of realizing what your value is that you didn't see about yourself before. Maybe some of the things that you value that you've had a perspective change around, because I feel like with Taurus kind of being more sensual, I think that like in the spiritual community, and even really like in our society, like there's these elements of like sensuality that are taboo, right? That like everybody has sex, but like nobody acknowledges it. And there's like all these double standard things, right? Like about body count, or about like being pure, and like that really kind of contradicts with like someone wanting to have like a full human experience, right? And that that there's also these other things of like, like being physically intimate with someone and like developing a soul tie, and then like not being able to move on. And it's like there's all this stuff that's really kind of convoluted and complicated, like the more we dig into it. But like with Taurus, it's the second sign of the zodiac. Like this is about learning. Like this, if we think about like, the first sign is Aries, and that's kind of the infant. Like I think of Taurus as almost like the toddler, right? That like, like the toddler might have to learn that like you can't eat a whole bag of candy because then your tummy's gonna hurt. And you just have to kind of sit with the tummy ache. Like you just have to wait till the tummy ache is over. Your body has to digest the food that you ate, you know, and there's a reason that, you know, there's a reason why mom only lets you have so much candy, or there's a reason why dad only lets you have so much candy, to keep you from having this tummy ache. But it's also like, that's how we learn, right? That like, sometimes we don't know that we're overdoing it until we've overdone it, you know, in whatever areas of our lives that we're learning about. But this is very much in the physical, tangible. So that's, you know, that's kind of this part of it. I think that will come into, it looks like that's going to touch on the reading in quite a few ways. So let's look at this first kind of path for you, or this, you know, this one fork in the road. So we've got the Three of Swords here and trust. And so Three of Swords is a card of disappointment, heartache, betrayal sometimes. And with this trust card, and this kind of heart in the middle, it feels like you might have experienced something that, you know, caused some, like a little bit of heartache, or caused some disappointment, or caused some pain for you. And it's affected the way that you're able to trust people. It might have affected like your understanding of trust. I think that, you know, sometimes we can go through pain. We can go through like disappointment, betrayal, and we can kind of fluctuate, right? From like, I'm never going to trust anybody again because like I never want to be hurt again. All the way to, you know, okay, I can see the reasons that like, or I can see some of the red flags that I missed that caused me to get hurt, or I can see how I gave my trust too easily to someone that didn't deserve it, or I can see how I didn't really understand how trust worked. And that I just thought that you could trust everybody, or I betrayed someone else's trust. It really feels like somebody else has betrayed your trust, you know, because this is us, you know, the hand over the heart that's got the swords in it. So it feels like there was some kind of like painful thing that happened, and that like you've done a lot of healing around it, and it's shifted the way that you relate to trust, the way that you understand trust, and also the way that you trust people now. With this Knight of Swords, like I'm just getting, I just knocked it all around. I'm getting that I feel like this Knight of Swords is the person that hurt you, that broke your trust, and it feels like they made some choices that created this disruption in the connection, right? Because we've got these kind of, you know, these three lines with like this, or yeah, even it looks like a ribbon. It's got a hole in it, and there's like another ribbon being pulled through. But there's, you know, there was a disruption that created a break, or it created, maybe not even a break, like it just created a tear. It kind of created a rip, which I feel like is very much the way that, like, when we talk about trust, like we say that someone like broke our trust, right? That, and trust is not this tangible thing. It's not like a piece of wood that gets broken in half, but I feel like this disruption card is very much connected to the way that we relate to trust. And so this Knight of Swords, like it almost feels like there was like some kind of conflict, or there was like something that happened, and this thing that happened is, you know, it created this disruption that broke your trust and really kind of broke your heart regarding this person. But I feel like in a lot of ways, like this disruption, like the choices that they made had nothing to do with you, even though they affected you. It feels like this Knight of Swords, like there's, you know, traditionally with the Knight of Swords, there's a lot of impulsivity around like this card, this energy. Knights are about movement. Knight of Swords is the fastest moving knight in the deck, and knights move pretty quickly, right? Like they're riding off into like have these adventures, and they're running to slay the dragon, or they're like in a rush to save the princess from the tower. But it feels like this Knight of Swords that you dealt with, they it's giving me kind of this Aries energy of like, act now, think later, you know? So it's almost like that's the impulsiveness where it's like it's like this kind of hair trigger reaction. And it almost feels like there's a lack of maturity, right? That like it's almost like they don't have the capacity yet. They haven't built up the strength. They haven't built up the muscle to, you know, have a reaction come up and then to kind of implement the self-discipline to be like, okay, should I react to this? Is this about me? Like, what am I even going to say? Like, it's almost like the words come out of their mouth, before they even realize that their mouth is open. So it's very much like this kind of impulsive, like, I don't like the word immature, because they're like, I feel like calling this person immature is really kind of blaming energy. Like they are becoming aware of the fact that they do this, but they are not yet aware enough to like stop it before it happens. And it feels to me like it's a hyper reactivity. It's based on something that happened to them. And it really feels like it might be something with their upbringing where like they had to almost develop some kind of self-defense mechanism in their childhood. And that's how they operate in the world. Yeah, you agree, Ben? And that's how they operate in the world. And they're learning, like they have learned through you that like protecting yourself doesn't mean hurting other people, you know, and that like we don't need to be on the offensive with everyone. Because it's like, if you're always on the offensive to protect yourself, you're going to hurt the people that aren't trying to hurt you. Right. And so like, that was you, like you weren't trying to hurt them. Like you just were kind of there and they're just swinging wildly, you know, punching everywhere. And it's like, you got hurt really bad. And that kind of created this break. And it almost feels like they're beating up on themselves now. And so, you know, lastly, I've got this King of Cups card and then this Consciousness card. And so the King of Cups is very emotionally mature. You know, we've got this watch that the King of Cups has, like this kind of represents like time, age, wisdom. So this could be somebody that's a little bit older than you, or it could just be someone that is, you know, it just indicating that this is a very mature person, very conscious, very aware of the things that they do. And it feels like they're coming, like you have this option. Gosh, this reading is, I understand now why, like when I was getting ready for the readings, it was like fork in the road choice or like timeline shift, because this isn't an either or. It's almost like each reading is a decision within itself, right? And so it feels like for you, the decision in this particular fork in the road, you know, this path of your journey is about love and relationships, and you're being kind of called to make the decision about these two, right? Like, because I think there's this part of you that knows that if you let this person, they will come back. Like really, this person is waiting for you to give them permission to come back in. This person is waiting for you to tell them that you're not hurt anymore. They don't yet have the maturity to like say, hey, I have all this like trauma and I shouldn't have reacted to you based on my trauma, but like I'm still working through it, and I don't know how to deal with it. And like, they don't have the maturity and the capacity to say that, but also they don't want to say that because, when we apologize, we're asking for someone to forgive us for something we did. And we're also making this promise that we won't do that same thing again. And the problem is with your Knight of Swords, like they can't guarantee that they're not going to do it again, which is why they don't want to apologize, because they don't want to lie to you. But you also have this like King of Cups person that is, it's almost like they're in the background. And I feel like this is the fork in the road, right? Like the universe is like, do you want to wait for this person and be with this person? Or do you want to let this person go because you've done this healing, right? And we can always heal and repair trust and choose to allow people to come back in, just like we can heal and learn what we need to learn about trust so that we can have, more elevated, mature relationships. And so it feels like that's what your fork in the road is that like there's, it's almost like this King of Cups, like this mature, loving, conscious energy. Like this person is, it's almost like the universe has them in a waiting room for you. And then this person is in another waiting room. And actually, it feels like this person's like waiting in the hallway outside of like your apartment. And then this person's waiting in the lobby. And it's really like your decision, right? Like you can, you can decide that you want to leave your apartment and get back together with them, or that you want to invite them in, or you can, be open to the universe like letting you know that there's someone in the lobby so that you can kind of buzz them upstairs. And so I feel like this is the fork in the road, right? That like, are you so attached to this person? And do you value this person so much that it's worth it to go back to them, even if they haven't changed? Because, sometimes we love people so deeply and we're so attached to people that like the good outweighs the potential bad, even if we've already experienced the bad, right? Because like what I can't tell you the right decision to make, but what I can tell you is that like this person, this Knight of Swords, like they are not at a place where they can do the work to prevent them from hurting you again or disappointing you again or breaking your trust, And so it's like in the midst of like your own healing, is that something that like you're willing to heal from again? Is that something that like is going to bother you, or have you decided that like I've done enough healing and I'm not willing to repair the damage that somebody else is possibly going to do again. And I would like to pursue, this, I'm open to a more mature, conscious relationship. I'm open to like a different type of love. I'm willing to start over. I'm not afraid of leaving behind what I already know. Or, do you want to continue to be with this person? So I feel like that's the fork in the road for this part of the reading. And so over here we've got, different tarot and oracle combination. Got this Queen of Cups, sensitivity, Queen of Wands, self-expression, Four of Swords, and communication. So I feel like these are related, but this one is specifically just about you. And I feel like this one is about, relationships and connections. So this Queen of Cups, I feel like the fork in the road is actually between these two energies that, like this Four of Swords and communication. Four of Swords is a card of, rest. It's a card of restoration. We've got this person laying down, like in the traditional tarot, this is like a coffin. But here we've got this person that's laying in bed. She's got her hand over her eyes. Like she's just exhausted. It's the middle of the day. Like maybe she's a migraine. We don't know. But like each of these swords is like pointing down towards her. Like this space needs to be the focus. Like you need to be resting. Swords is a card, or swords symbolize communications, thoughts, words. With this blue whale, like blue whales have their own language, like they communicate in sounds that only make sense to other blue whales. And so I feel like the thing that's coming up with this card is actually around like miscommunication with, gosh, it feels like if you're having a lot of like frustration in communicating with people, it's almost like that's a sign that those are not your people. It's almost like they don't understand you because you're speaking two different languages, right? So like if we were to listen to like a recording of like blue whale kind of like clicks and ticks and like the little, kind of songs that they kind of sing and communicate to each other, like it doesn't make sense to us because like we don't speak that language. But to another blue whale or to another animal that speaks that same language, or even maybe like a researcher, like I don't know if they've been able to translate it or whatever, or if they can recognize like the different types of sounds, they might understand it, but it feels like it's almost like when you have miscommunications with people, that is a sign for you to hang back. And it feels like this Four of Swords communication message, it almost feels like it's guidance for how to approach this, right? That like if the problem that you and your Knight of Swords had was very much around communication and like in the time that you're spending by yourself, you kind of realize that like, oh, we always had communication problems, and like I would say something and they would misunderstand it, and I've said the same thing to other people and they don't think of it that way, or if you decide to become open to this King of Cups that comes in and the communication is like really weird, then like that's kind of a sign that that's not your people. Those aren't the people that resonate with you. That's not the right vibration for you to connect with. With this Queen of Cups and the Queen of Wands, it feels like you are in this Queen of Cups energy, that like you're a very sensitive person, like you're deeply loving. You might be lacking some boundaries, like you just kind of go with the flow. I feel like sometimes when when I used to work in an office, or really like with a bunch of other people, sometimes people will do things without a plan, and I'm not saying that like everybody has to be a planner, but I think like in the workplace, like there's a specific goal you're trying to meet, right? Or like a sub goal under a bigger goal, but there's objectives and things that you're trying to do. And it's hard to meet an objective like when you haven't made a plan or you don't know like what the end point is that you're trying to reach. And so whenever there were people that were kind of like meandering through a project, I always thought of that as jellyfishing, where like I'm just gonna bump into whatever I bump into, and like if this works, great, and if it doesn't, I'll bounce off that into something else. And so that's why I say it's a little bit like kind of this boundaryless energy. Also because jellyfishes are like they're really soft and squishy, right? Like they don't have like these kind of hard parts to them, like we have a skeleton that really creates the boundary for our physical form, depending on like what bones you have and where they're at. And so I think that like with this sensitivity, I feel like there's such a negative connotation with being like called a sensitive person. And there's nothing wrong with being sensitive. Like you just have a really tender heart, which is really beautiful. But I think the hard part about being very giving with your heart and not having boundaries is that there are people that will gladly just take that cup out of your hand, or they'll drink everything in the cup and hand it back to you and ask for more. And so it feels like, this King of Cups energy, this new person that's coming in, if you're open to them, it's a really good match for you. And it also feels like this Queen of Wands energy with self-expression. Queen of Wands, like she is very, intentional. Like she knows what she wants, right? Like we've got with this Queen of Cups, like she's very focused on, she's very focused on this cup, which is, it represents love. She's kind of, she's got her body language turned towards this cup. So it's like whatever is in here, whatever is connected to love is always going to have her focus, like first and foremost, because she's the Queen of Cups. Like the cup will always be the most important to her. Love will always be the most important to her in this energy. Not to say that like if you don't resonate with Queen of Cups, love doesn't matter to you, but like it's not the top priority when you're not in this energy. So this Queen of Wands energy, like very intentional, forward facing, like she's ready to take action. And that's what the wands represent. Wands represent like that fire, passion, action, like even intuition. We have this little baby black cat here. So like almost like a familiar to, a witch or a healer, spiritual worker. And so it feels like you have both energies, but you have a tendency to lean into this energy more. And I feel like the fork in the road for you, the thing that's being the option, the choice that you're being given now is to learn how to balance your energy between both the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Wands. Because I think the hard thing with boundaries is like when we are not comfortable with boundaries and we think about implementing boundaries, like it feels like being mean, right? It feels like having to cut someone off or having to like say no, and it feels like almost like withholding ourselves, which, if you're, well, I was going to say if, but like you're in this Queen of Cups energy. So you're just a naturally very giving person. The problem, is like when we don't have boundaries and we're a giver, like we can often meet people that are takers. So this Queen of Wands, like she's very well boundaried. And I feel like this self-expression card is like the perfect kind of perspective shift for how to look at boundaries, because each of us has things that we need to express to fulfill ourselves, right? That we have needs, we have desires, we have plans, we have dreams. And so the expression of the things that we want for ourselves is very similar to like the way that you would explain what someone's wants and desires are, right? Or wants and needs are. Like you can express that you need 8 hours of sleep, right? So like, no, I'm sorry, I can't go out with you at midnight. You can express that like you have a dream to travel overseas, and so if people are like, hey, we're gonna go on vacation to Disneyland, and you said that you're saving vacation money, like a boundary around that would be to say like, well, my desire is to travel overseas. That's what I'm spending the money for, not to go to another state in the United States, right? And so like those things are boundaries. It's not like this really harsh, like, no, I hate Disneyland, or like, no, I don't want to go on vacation with you. It's, I feel like a lot of times boundaries are, it's not as simple as like yes or no. It's not as simple as like open and closed. If we think of like a boundary, like a door, there are some people that, are safe enough that like the boundary we have with them is that like we've given them a house key. And we trust them to come over whenever they want to, but it's because, they have healthy boundaries and they will send us a text or they'll give us a call before they come over, or they only use the key when they're pet sitting for us, right? Or they only use the key when like they have to like pick our kids up from school and like stay with them until we get home from like a late shift or something. So, boundaries, I think for someone that's not familiar with boundaries and maybe even uncomfortable with boundaries, like we can think about like worst case situation in like boundaries being like this really rigid thing, and like boundaries hurt people's feelings and people don't like them, and that's also true. But if if the ways that we choose to express ourselves hurt other people's feelings, that kind of says something about them, right? Because it's, to go back to like that example of 8 hours of sleep. Like if you have to work in the morning and you need 8 hours of sleep and your friend tells you that it hurts their feelings that you can't go out with them at midnight, like what do you do with that, right? Because it's like, well, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but also like we all have responsibilities. And also like, so do you need me to choose between what my body needs and like what is gonna not hurt your feelings, which is for me to be tired? Like that's a really like a lose-lose, right? So I just use that example because when we actually have like a boundaries conflict, it feels way different than what our brain says is hard about boundaries, right? That like our brain says like, you know, like you can't have boundaries because you're going to feel bad if you hurt someone's feelings. And then like if you express your boundaries and it hurts someone's feelings because you need sleep, like that's, you know what I mean? It's not actually the way that your brain says it's going to be. Cause it's like, okay, well I have to pay my bills. So I'm sorry that your feelings are hurt that I have to go to my job. And like, what is this? So yeah. This energy also, like this Queen of Cups and Queen of Wands energy, like balancing this out within yourself also feels like it's gonna kind of resolve, or it's gonna help you to make the best decision for you, right? So it's almost like if you can get into, you know, if you can take some time to rest, you know, and to just kind of look at like the miscommunications that have happened, that are happening, and you can kind of observe yourself in like how much you overgive versus how little you ask for what you need or express your needs or express your wants. I feel like that's gonna make this situation very easy, because I feel like this is the big conflict, right? Like being torn between two different pathways, you know, that like I don't know which one to pick, and it's because, you know, you're really primarily operating out of this giver energy, and it feels like, you know, God Source Spirit is like, hey, you need to take some time to rest, and you really need to start to make yourself a little bit more of a priority instead of other people, and that this is going to resolve for itself. And again, to go back to this Taurus card, like we talked about in the beginning, it's about your, you know, like your worth and like what you value, self-care, like, and like how you value yourself. Do you value yourself more or less than you value others? Do you see your worth as more or less than others? And just kind of allowing those things to be something that you let float around in your brain, you know, when you're resting, in the time that you have like that quiet time. So yeah, group number 1, this has been your reading, really about choices, you know, kind of fork in the road, but definitely about choices. So I hope that you enjoyed this reading. I hope that it brought you a lot of clarity. I just want to say thank you so much for letting me read your cards. And if you enjoyed the reading, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. I'd also love to hear your comments, like if this resonated for you. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hello, group number 2. So if you chose this flower agate point and this Gemini card, this is your reading. So I have 3 tarot and 3 oracle from a couple different decks. So I'm just going to lay all the cards out, and we're going to take a look at what is coming up for you. As I mentioned, this reading is kind of it's a fork in the road / choices / timeline shifts reading. And I say all these slashes because after doing group number 1's reading, like I was able to see that the reading is, it could be about a fork in the road. It could be about choices. It could be about a timeline shift. Like there's just a lot of stuff coming up in the readings. And so kind of allowing the cards to explain to us like what's coming up. So I want to make sure that you can see everything. Okay. So this flower agate point, like I feel like the fun thing about crystal points is that like it's a way to really concentrate the energy that you're wanting to use. This flower agate it feels like there's just kind of this sort of like lighthearted, positive energy to this crystal. With this light color, it kind of associates with like the crown chakra. There's a little bit of like cleansing element to it, but I think like the really fun part is the way that like the kind of parts of it like almost look like flowers. Like there's certain I don't know if you can kind of see it here. Like this almost looks like flower petals, but there's some flower agate that has like kind of pinks and like different colors in it. So it looks a lot more like flowers than our little friend here. With this Gemini card, Gemini represents the third house, which is the house of communication, like self-expression, kind of early education, and also like Gemini is the symbol of the twins, right? We have these two little bees here. It's an air energy. So Geminis typically are kind of fast talkers, fast thinkers, very funny, playful, witty people, very busy, like they're this little busy bee. They like to do a lot of things and they do them kind of quickly, which can sometimes lead to needing to do it twice, which is, that energy of the twins, 2 times. So with this cross-pollinate message on here, we've got like it's almost like having lots of different interests and like a little bit of like collaborative energy, but more so like bringing one thing into another. It makes me think of what's it like, fusion restaurants, like fusion food, right? Where it's like I don't know, maybe it's like a pizza place, but it's like an Asian fusion pizza restaurant, right? So like where all the toppings and stuff like that are all connected to like really popular Asian dishes, instead of like traditional kind of like pizza toppings. So there's like this creative element to it as well. So that's this card. I feel like there might be some of that energy in here. Just kind of looking. So I feel like I want to read this side first. Because the energy on this side is very, very big, like high level, like big picture perspective. Like this is looking at it from an airplane, and this is like sitting in the passenger seat of the car, even though we do have like, there's just like a lot of big energy here. Because you've got major arcana, major, and then you've got 1 minor. So this is very interesting. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm just gonna go across, kind of, sort of. Okay, so we've got this Justice card. Justice is about, it's a card that's related to karma. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. As my dad would say to us when we were like in our teen years, every pleasure has a price, which is kind of ominous and a little bit creepy, but very accurate. But we've got this good luck. This little black cat for good luck, which is kind of funny because typically black cats are not seen as something that is good luck. But balancing the scales, right? Karma is, I think sometimes people think about like karmic balance as something that has a tendency to be more punitive, where it's like, we'll almost kind of curse each other with like, like it makes me think of the Taylor Swift song, where she's talking about like karma being something that like comes back for this other person, but you know, that's not the only way that karma works. We can also, you know, have karma come up where we've done something really positive, and so we get, you know, positive things in return. We've got the two sides here with this, you know, with this justice card where you know, we've got someone that's very obviously wealthy and someone that's very obviously not. The sword is on this side, so it's almost like this is the punishment, and the scales are on this side, which is the rebalancing. And so I think the other tricky thing about this is that we are both, typically not at the same time, you know, but like we go through these cycles. Like sometimes we, you know, sometimes we are getting, we're getting what is due to us. And then there's other times where like the energy comes in to rebalance things in our favor. And so like with this good luck card, it almost like, it feels to me like the way that the rebalancing and justice is happening, it's in your favor, but it doesn't look like it to other people, you know, like, and there's, for some reason I'm getting revenge. And I think that like you've been through something where people, like when you've talked to people about it, or when people want to talk to you about it, like they're wishing that someone would get revenge on someone else for you. And that would be like, that would be how justice is served, right? For this other person to be hurt or this other person to be punished. But for whatever reason, like that's not what you want. That's not healing for you. That's not what you need. Also, like you wouldn't wish vengeance on that other person, not because like you're such a pure heart and you don't want to have that karmic kind of negative energy, but like hurt doesn't heal. So like someone or something, a situation was really hurtful to you, and you don't want the person that hurt you to feel the pain that you felt. That wouldn't do anything, right? I think that sometimes like when we want revenge, like we just want the other person to hurt the way that they hurt us. Like, I don't know what to do with this hurt and I wish I could just like lob it at you. That's not how you feel. It's almost like other, you know, like other people are like wishing bad on that person, and you're kind of just like, just disappear from my existence. Like for me, like justice would be that I would never interact with you again, that we wouldn't exist in the same time space continuum, that like I would never hear your name, I would never see your face, like that I could just become invisible to you, or you could just disappear from any traces of my existence or memory or anything. Like it's almost like for you, justice would be going back to the day before you met them and never having met them, never having gone through that experience. And so it feels like that, like, that's the good luck that is coming for you. Like the thing that you want for your healing is what is coming. And like when other people hear about that thing happening, like it doesn't make sense to them and they kind of get hung up on it. But I feel like if that bothers you and you need to say something, like I would encourage you to share that, like, hey, this outcome is actually exactly what I wanted and it's really beneficial for my healing. If it doesn't feel helpful for you to express that at all, then just let them have that hate in their heart about a situation that didn't really affect them the way it affected you. Like, it's almost like, gosh, it's almost like people who criticize things that they would never do or like never try, right? So like it's almost like if someone is a vegan and they're criticizing the way somebody else makes a steak. It's like you don't even eat steak though. Like why, what? You know, like they're not saying like, hey, you shouldn't murder animals for your meal. They're like, oh, that's not, like you shouldn't cook it at that temperature, or like that seasoning is terrible. It's like, what, why are you even chiming in? Like there's you have no skin in the game, and also like you're not in a like stay in your lane, like go grill some vegetables or something. I hope that makes sense. So like if it makes you feel better to share like this is exactly what I needed, then share that. And if it feels pointless to even convey like that this is not about them, or that like it feels like there's people that are invested in your situation's outcome that kind of are just like a little bit hooked on drama. And I think you can see that. So it's just like, cool. Thanks for sharing your opinion about a thing that didn't really affect your life, except for it was like something that you became really nosy about. Ooh, sorry, that's kind of harsh. But maybe that's really how you feel. Because I feel like people do love some drama. Okay, so next we have this Sun card and freedom. So the Sun card is one of the most positive cards in the tarot. We've got these two little kiddos playing, they're kind of fighting over this flag, sunflowers everywhere, and this great big sun in the background kind of watching over them. It feels almost like the sun is sort of like this, sort of like a guardian angel in a way, right? Because the rays spread out all across the card. It's very intentionally watching, looking at these children, but also looking to see if anything's coming. And so it feels like a very kind of like a divine protective energy, which is really beautiful, right? That like this freedom card with the woman in the cage, it's kind of this juxtaposition, right? But we've got this white dove in the background and this bright white light. And this cage actually isn't a physical cage. This is more of like an energetic cage. And it feels like these are the same message in that like there's a new day is dawning, and that this divine protection, it's always around you, and it's given you this level, or it's giving you this level of freedom that like, it's almost like if you can allow yourself to really deeply tap into the divine, God, source, spirit, whatever you believe in, ancestors, angels, guides, whatever calls to you, that like you'll become a lot more aware of how divinely protected you are. And I think that awareness is going to give you this like just really expanded sense of freedom. If you're into astrology, I would highly encourage you to like look up your astrology transits like for the week, like what's aspecting like some of your natal planets and points, because there's some really big Jupiter energy, and Jupiter is the planet of good luck, good fortune. It's also the planet of expansion, and like there's a little bit of, well, not a little bit, there's some Uranus energy which is connected to freedom as well. But it feels like there's some really significant things that are happening for you. Oops, hit the microphone. There's some really significant, expansive, positive, like divinely guided things that are happening for you over the course of like the next 2 weeks. And it could be a shift, right? That like this might be wrapping up and you're shifting into this energy of just really kind of coming into it's like this was like a really crazy storm, tornado, hurricane thing, and now you're coming into this time when like the sun's coming out and the clouds are parting and there's like a rainbow, and the birds are chirping again, and everything's like really almost like the storm never happened, right? Like I don't know if you've ever been like, I don't know, been in like a kind of a really bad thunderstorm, and then it clears out, and then it's like, the sun comes out, like the birds are chirping, like we weren't all just like freaking out 12 minutes ago about all this like thunder and lightning, that they're like, it's all clear, we're good. Like that feels like that energy. And then here we've got the death card and commitment, which is another kind of juxtaposing energy, right? Because death and commitment don't exactly go together, but like this death card is about endings, and like clearing things away, right? That, you know, death is kind of coming to let us know that like this season is over, that like it's bringing with it this kind of peace. And we've got this sun in the background, right? Like this little guy is back here. And so it's like this ending might be painful, but it's very fortunate. The ending is happening so that these more positive things can come. You know, with this like white rose, it's like purity and peace. And it feels like, you know, to go back to that storm analogy of whatever happened that needed to have justice implemented, like you know, it's when the clouds are really dark and the rain's really heavy and there's like thunder and lightning and it's kind of scary, you know, but the sun comes out afterwards, then we can kind of see like, oh, there was all this rain that happened that we really needed, or oh, that one tree that, like, I don't know, it was kind of on its last leg, it actually got knocked over, so now we don't have to cut it down, we just have to cut it into pieces and move it out of the way. Like, that in the moment things can seem really like hard and scary and dark, but we can always find like that new beginning that is waiting for us right on the precipice of that ending that's happening. And so with this commitment card, it feels like whatever this thing was that you went through, like this really difficult thing, I feel like this death and commitment card, like the message that the universe has for you is whatever that was that you went through, like that will never happen again. And not just in this lifetime, like in this lifetime it will not happen again, but like for your lineage it will not happen again, for your soul it will not happen again. Like if you reincarnate, this isn't a lesson that you need to learn anymore. And it's almost like I talked about the karmic thing, like this has been like a karmic soul lesson that you've closed out, that like, and I don't say it to kind of make you feel like, I feel like sometimes there can be a lot of pressure on like, oh, you've been dealing with this thing for a bunch of lifetimes and now you finally overcame it. And it's like, okay, cool. But like, this was like really fucking hard. And like, yes, that's, I mean, there's, yay us, you know, we overcame this thing. But I feel like the message like around this, like never happening again, I feel like this is a message of comfort for you and for your soul, that like whatever you went through, the universe like wants you to know that like something of this magnitude, something of this like level of difficulty or trauma or whatever it was, like this will never happen to you again. That like you, because of your power, you were able to like get through it and overcome it and do whatever it was that you needed to do in this. Because I feel like to say like, oh, you learned your lesson, like that's not, this is a very, whatever this thing was that you went through, the storm that you went through, like there's so many layers to it. It's very complex. Like it's, the magnitude of it is not just like, I had a fear of flying and I overcame it, you know, like it's not like that. Like there's so many, like there's so much nuance to it that like, I don't know that you could even explain it to someone else, like how significantly it's impacted and shifted and changed you. And so I feel like this sun and death energy is just the universe saying like that, like every, like things are going to be so much better from here on out. And that like you are so divinely protected. And you're so strong and capable, and you know this about yourself now. And through this, almost like through this partnership with the universe, like the both of you have closed this out and it will never happen again. And like, it's almost like the farther you get away from it, like the further back in your timeline it is, like the less it will be part of your existence. So it's almost like you're going to get to a point, I just heard 5 years. You're going to get to a point like 5 years from now where it's like, it's going to be this really distant memory. Like it's going to be a thing that is kind of like, something you talk about really nonchalantly, but you don't talk about it. It's like the way it comes up in your brain. It's almost like the same way as like whenever people are like, oh, let me look at your tattoos. Like I always kind of am like, I have a cupcake, you know, and it's like this sort of ridiculous nonchalant thing. It feels like that's the same energy of like, huh, that's so crazy that 5 years ago this thing happened. And then it means like, it does not affect me. I'm like so unbothered now. And it's like when your brain does happen to think of it, or like if a memory of it does come up for some reason, or if somebody's like, oh my gosh, that's, you know, 5 years ago is when you lived in this place. And like, that was such a crazy time. Like it's not going to trigger you anymore. It's going to be like, huh, yeah, that was weird. And so I just feel like this isn't really like this part isn't really a crossroads or like a choices. It feels like this is kind of like a quantum shift, like a timeline shift, like a quantum leap, like that because you overcame this, because you worked through this, because you did whatever it was that you needed to do with this, because there's something really significant that you had to make the choice to do. Like this was something that you had to endure. Like this wasn't easy. And because you did what you did here, like it's caused this huge timeline shift for you where it's like, okay, like that will never happen again. We will never experience that, anything similar to that, anything even of that magnitude. Like it just feels like your life's really going to be like sunshine and rainbows from here on out. And it doesn't feel like nothing bad's going to happen, you know, like we can't control anything. And, you know, we live in a world surrounded by people and, you know, people do whatever they want. But it does feel like even when things come up that are difficult, it's like that surviving that situation is the litmus test for everything, where it's like, like, I mean, this isn't my favorite thing, but it could be worse, you know, or it has been worse, or like, nah, I've been through worse. So yeah, this is the first part of the reading. And so for this reading over here, we have the Chariot and Parrot Spirit, the Empress and Squirrel Spirit, and then we've got the Five of Swords and Chameleon Spirit. So I'm feeling really drawn to this five of bells, Five of Swords. Chameleon Spirit, act as if. 1 + 4 is 5 in numerology. So we got this double 5 energy. 5 is about change. And the thing that is coming up really strongly with this card, 5 of Swords is a card of, it's kind of a card of like fighting dirty, you know, that in the traditional tarot, we've got 3 people and then one person holds all the swords. Here they have 3 and there's 2, but like this person almost has, it's giving me big manipulation energy because they're controlling all the swords, and we can see, like, when we look at these people's faces, like there's some distress here, right? And there's distress because this person is manipulating these bells to like ring really loudly with these people. And so in this deck, it's the Numinous Tarot. The bells are used to signify swords. And bells, like metal bells, like if you've even like heard if you've ever been like super close to a church bell, it's obviously the closer you are, the louder it is because it's so big. But like in this deck, bells represent swords, and there's a lot of pain that's inflicted through these swords, you know, that because swords are a weapon, right? And there's like swords represent communication, you know, like we talked about with like Gemini, right? Like this air energy, swords are air energy, which is like thoughts, communications, words. And it feels like there is or was someone around you that like caused you a lot of pain with their words. And for whatever reason, like you felt that you had to appease them with this chameleon spirit. Like, you know, the message says act as if, and really what happened was like this kind of manipulative person, like they put you in a, I don't know how to say this. I feel like I'm getting a lot of different energy. Okay. This manipulative person, they're giving me like bully energy. And so you felt like you had to just pretend that nothing was wrong. And you had to just do whatever you could do to, show up the way that you were supposed to, right? The way that they wanted you to show up. Like with the chameleons typically like change their colors to blend into their environment, like to avoid predators, right? Like they're trying to camouflage so that they can stay safe. And for you, it was the same thing. Like you're trying to make yourself look or seem different than who you are, because that's how you stayed safe. That you needed to conform or contort yourself to whoever this kind of bell ringer was. And I think, gosh, like the way that energy comes across is like there's some humiliation, there's some like public ridicule. It kind of feels like a work situation. So I don't know if this is like something like this is your work situation or like, I don't, like work or school almost, is what, like, that's what I'm getting. Like, that's what I'm feeling. Like this person used their power and authority to leverage their ability to bully people, to make people behave the way that they wanted. And that, like, you know, for a long time you did that because you had to. This was like a survival thing. With this Chariot card and then this Empress card, you know, these major arcana energies, big energies. This Chariot card is a card of forward movement, like going somewhere, like having the universe come and like take you somewhere else. This parrot spirit, watch your words. It feels like this is not a typical message for the Chariot, but it feels like the watch your words message this almost feels like, in a way, like a warning to make sure that you are manifesting what you want, not what other people tell you that you should want. Like, I feel like this person is like in your ear, or they have some kind of influence, and like the things that they will say to you are just for the purpose of like controlling you or manipulating you, because that's just what they like to do. They don't care about your best, highest good. They don't really care about anybody's best, highest good. Like, they are one of those like people that really get off on like controlling other people. Like, it's a game and they think it's fun, and it feels really gross. I think just because that like shaming, humiliation thing that they do when people don't follow what they say or don't agree with them. And so it feels like because you're manifesting your way out of this, away from this. And so like one part of the message, like watch your words, it feels like keep it to yourself, like that you're moving out, moving away, like keep that to yourself. But also, because you are a powerful manifester, like be very intentional about what it is that you want to call in. Be very intentional about where you're asking that Chariot to take you to. Right? Because I feel like I've said this before in a lot of my readings. Like, to me, the Chariot's like the Uber of the universe, where like the universe is like, you know, get in, loser. We're going to live our best life. And they're going to take you wherever it is that you want to go. And so like, just being very intentional about where it is that you want to go. You know, this 5 of bells might say like, oh, well, you want to go do this. And you're like, yeah, I want to wait. Is that what I want? Or am I just so used to listening to you because I've had to listen to you out of this sense of like, that's how I survive? And like, how do I close my ears to your, in my opinion, really shitty voice, and decide what I want, decide where I want to go. Like, that's what the message of this card is, that like you can manifest and go wherever you want. So make sure that it's what you want, not what this person is telling you, not even like out of desperation to get away from this chaos and this noise. Like, really tune into your heart and figure out like what it is that you want. Being called to this Gemini energy, like with this manifestation that you're kind of thinking up, maybe do a pros and cons list, or maybe do a list of like 2 different options, right? And I feel like as you list out the 2 different lists of what it is that you want, I feel like it's going to be very clear to you which one is influenced by this person and which one is not. So it feels like writing, journaling, making that pros and cons list, even if it's like you type it up or put it in your phone, like that's going to bring you a lot of clarity, and it's going to end this controlling thing this person has over you. This Empress or Nurturer and the Squirrel Spirit, I feel like this is very much tied to like the way that your higher self sees you. Like, it's almost like the Emperor is your higher self. We've got this really bright yellow here. This is connected to the solar plexus chakra, and the squirrel, believe in yourself. Like, self-confidence is rooted in this solar plexus chakra. We've got a lot of yellow here, you know? And so I feel like you're being, if you need some help coming into learning how to believe in yourself, like if you want to do some like higher self meditations, like where you connect with your higher self, if you want to write a letter to your higher self and just kind of develop that relationship and ask them for like some kind of advice and guidance, and then write back to yourself, you know, as your higher self, or try to channel those messages. Doing some work with like your solar plexus chakra. So that could be, you know, wearing yellow, like working with yellow crystals, eating yellow foods, or even just kind of finding some like solar plexus chakra, like music, or like anything that has like, that's connected to like the hertz that vibrate at a frequency of like self-confidence, or like joy or happiness, or like even just like self-love, because it feels like this person has kind of beaten you down. Like, they've worn you down with like this kind of clanging of the bells, you know. It's like, just, I will do anything for some silence, like just please be quiet. And that has affected like your belief in yourself, you know, because really like that solar plexus is also associated with like our sense of personal power, you know, our belief that like we can make things happen, we can make our own choices, we can implement change. And I feel like, you know, with like these bells all being yellow, it's almost like these bells are like a kryptonite against anybody's self-confidence or self-esteem. Like, it really drains other people's power. And like, that's kind of why they do it, you know, like, just, I don't know who this is. I do not like them. And I'm sorry that you have to deal with them. I just don't like it. I don't know who they are. I don't know what their connection is to you, but like, just, this is really, it's very malicious. It's just gross energy, and I don't like it. But I feel like it's almost like these 2 cards are these are like different exit strategies to get away from this, right? So it's like choices again. It's not exactly a fork in the road. You know, we've got this timeline shift, but really it's almost like it's a strategy for how to move away from this, right? To be very intentional with what you want to manifest, and figure out what it is that you really want to manifest, that you want to call in based on all the things that you are thinking about, or that you've been told that you should do, or that you're not sure if it's your idea or somebody else's. And then also really kind of connecting to your higher self to build up that confidence, you know, to like reestablish that confidence, to almost like to refill your own cup in terms of like your self-esteem and your confidence. So yeah, group number 2, this has been your reading on fork in the road, choices, timeline shift, whatever it is you want to call it. I hope that it brought you like some support and comfort, because I feel like you have been through, you might be like you're still kind of dealing with a lot, like you're coming out of it, even if it doesn't feel like that, like it, you're coming out of it. But yeah, I hope this was nourishing for you, because I feel like maybe you just needed some good news or a light at the end of the tunnel, or like something to look forward to. So I hope that this has brought that for you. I want to say thank you so much for letting me read your cards. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed the reading, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. If you feel like you would like to leave a comment, I love reading comments that you guys leave for me. Just because I feel like it's just such a lovely act of kindness to just share some part of yourself with a stranger, so that me as another stranger can be kind to you in return. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for being here, and I hope that you have a lovely day, night, whenever you're watching this, and I will see you later. Bye. Hello, group number 3. So if you chose this 7th house relationship card and this little amethyst moon, this is your reading. So I have a bunch of tarot and oracle cards for you. And we're going to take a look at potentially like a fork in the road or choices or a timeline shift that is coming up for you. Actually both readings had kind of a mix of different things. So that's why it doesn't have like a super clear title to it, because it's like it could be a fork in the road, it could be a choice that you need to make, it could be a timeline shift, it could be all 3. But yeah, let's look at your tarot cards and oracle cards, and let's see what we have for you. I'm going to try to fit all these in here, and we'll just look at them all at once and go through them. Also, let me see. Don't worry, I will kind of move and shuffle some things so we can see everything. And just everybody will get real cozy and close. Just make friends. Is everybody in there? Yeah? Looks good. Not perfect, but good enough. Okay, so we have little amethyst moon. So amethyst is a healing crystal. It's also a cleansing crystal for other crystals. So if you are not someone that's able to, like myself, remember to put your crystals out in the sun or the moonlight or under a new moon, or however you're supposed to do it, because there's so many different ways you can cleanse your crystals. Not with soap and water though. And you just like to recharge and cleanse them by sticking them on top of another crystal. Amethyst is perfect for that. It's really good for like clearing the energy in your home and like infusing it with like just a really lovely kind of gentle, kind of homely energy, in my opinion, like cozy. Like this cozy energy. The moon changes signs every couple days. The moon is associated with Cancer. Cancers are known for being moody because the energy or the planet that rules Cancer is the moon, and the moon's energy shifts every 2 days. So it's not our faults. It's not our faults. We're just, we're sensitive and malleable. And then we've got this 7th house relationship card, and it just got this really beautiful kind of soft, sort of all the chakras, all the colors of the rainbow. We've got this arm here holding a hand that is kind of turning into this like mandala stained glass. Like this arm is wrapped in like flowers. Like it's just beautiful, harmonious, like just like this lovely flow of like one thing into another. 7th house is ruled by Libra, which is ruled by Venus, which is the planet of love, beauty, value, worth, money. This card is number 45. 4 plus 5 is 9 in numerology. 9 in numerology represents like the closing out of a cycle, the completion of a cycle, because in numerology, it's only single digit numbers aside from the master numbers or angel numbers, as most people know them. So, this 9 being kind of the end of a cycle, to me, this feels like there's some kind of cycle with regard to relationships that you're closing out, that like maybe you had and this cycle can look like something very practical and tangible, right? Where like we can be shifting from casual dating to wanting to come into commitment, right? So it's like we're ending that cycle of casual dating, or this could be an ending like a divorce or a breakup. It could be the ending of like being single and being ready to come into that cycle of, dating again, or just like meeting people. Or maybe you have decided that like, I thought I wanted to get married for a long time, and I think I really just want to enjoy experiencing connection with people, whatever that looks like, So it's like if I have someone that I go to dinner with once a month and it's a really beautiful connection, I am going to allow myself to enjoy that. If I meet someone that wants to move in with me and build a life with me, I'm open to that. So there's all kinds of, cycles that we can move in and out of. And with numerology, we go through like the 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is like, those are the kind of foundational numbers of numerology. And we go through year cycles where, you can be in a 1 year or 2 year or 3 year, all the way to a 9 year. And then you start over again with 1. And so I share that because sometimes like thinking about like cycles and changes and endings, it kind of creates a little bit of fear for people, where it's like, well, maybe you're married, right? And you're like, I don't want this marriage cycle of relationships to end for me. And it's like, it doesn't necessarily have to, right? It could be that like some part of that ends. Like maybe you're moving into like a phase of like being a couple, going from being a husband and wife to being parents. Or maybe you're moving from, being a couple that was really focused on like building up your careers and shifting into a phase where you're a couple that's more focused on like traveling, And so it's like our lives are so kind of rich and complex that even when like one phase ends, it's not always what we think it's going to be. And it's not always as like hard or bad, or the change is not, it's not the first negative thing that we think of, right? Because I think for some people, it could be that like, I don't know, the ending of a relationship sounds really terrible because they're in a loving relationship and they don't want it to end. And then someone else can be like, struggling to finalize a divorce with someone and it's finally over and they have so much relief, right? Like there's this full spectrum of experiences that we all have that can bring us joy or fear based on that one thing, but we all have different experiences, right? So like the person that's excited to get divorced feels totally different than the person that's fearful that like their partner would ever want to get divorced, And I just say all that to say that like you don't have to allow fear to drive the bus that is your life. So I'll leave that there. We all have power and choices. So if something about phases ending scares you, but it doesn't seem like something that resonates or is practical, it's probably not for you. Not sorry. So no need to worry. Okay, so we've got this kind of grouping of cards is one reading, and then we've got this grouping of cards, which is sort of another reading. So I'm kind of looking at these and just trying to see kind of like the overall energy, right? We've got major arcana for all 3 cards. So this is big energy, big changes. And then here we've got the one major arcana, but both of these cards are around balance, you know, and this is about bringing in, like, this is really a happily ever after. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So I want to look at both of these. So we've got this Two of Swords. And this is a card of balancing things in your mind, making a decision, right? The traditional Two of Swords, it has a blindfolded woman. She's sitting down and she's got the swords crossed over her chest. And that kind of crossed energy really symbolizes like internal conflict, maybe a little bit of confusion, a lack of clarity. But she's holding these swords in a different way, right? She's got them in front of her, so they're blocking something. And so it still has this energy of like, do I go this way or do I go that way? And then we've got this Justice card, which is also, it's the card of balance. But this is balancing energies. Like this feels more like balancing the approach to things. And so what it feels like to me is that like, there's, yeah, okay. What it feels like to me is that there's the mind and then there's the soul. And so you're at a crossroads, like this is kind of this is a choice reading, right? And so, sorry, there's so much coming. There's like just a lot coming. You want, I feel like I'm gonna cry. You want this. You want this happily ever after. Like you want, like the 10 of Cups it's all the cups, all of the love, right? We've got these two women and these two babies, and like this could be a family, you know, this could be a couple, this could be sisters, they could be best friends, they could be just part of a community. Like this could be so many different things because, you know, 10 of Cups is happily ever after, but everybody's happily ever after looks different, right? Some people don't want kids. Some people don't want to be married. Some people are, you know, they're not cis normative, you know, hetero, whatever. Like some people, I feel like some people would love to live in a community where everybody cares for each other, instead of only caring for the people that are in your nuclear families, right? So this is whatever your happily ever after is, you know what it is. I don't need to explain this to you. Like whatever your happily ever after is, you are worthy of receiving it. And also it's coming for you. And I say it's coming for you because we also have this jug, which is what you use to fill a cup. Come on. And it's all pouring out, and it's a lot. That's a lot. It's all pouring out, right? So this is like, once you start pouring liquid out, you can't stop it. So this is coming to you. And not that you would want to stop it, but I feel like just to illustrate, like the energy is coming to you. And it's almost, it's kind of funny. There's this small part of you that doesn't believe you can have this because you have a worthiness wound, and it's making me laugh because it reminds me of this friend that I had at like the very first base I was stationed at, and like we both went through a divorce at the same time, and she started dating this guy that just, they're married now and they have kids, and like when they first started dating, like she and I both are like, we both have like this very similar like sense of humor. We both kind of had kind of tough childhoods in our own ways. And so this guy was so, he wasn't super romantic, but he just really liked her, you know? And like, I mean, what's there not to like? She's just a phenomenal woman, very funny, like just sweet, caring. But he would compliment her. He'd be like, you're so beautiful. I'm laughing because she'd be like, shut the fuck up. It would crack me up because she would do this like whether people were there or not, because there's one time that he came over to our house and I was staying with her before I moved overseas, and they're just like, you know, we're all hanging out and talking, and he's just like, and he like the way that he would talk to her wasn't like, oh, you're so gorgeous. You know, it wasn't like dramatic and like cheesy. You know, he was just like, I just really enjoy spending time with you. And she'd be like, shut up. And like, it was like one part of it was this part of her, I think, that felt like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Like, please stop. Like, why, what? No, I don't believe you. A little bit of resistance and, you know, almost like if I push you away, if I try to push you away and it works, then you weren't meant to stay. But if you let me push you away and you don't leave, then I know that you can see through my defenses. And if you can see through my defenses, then I know that you really see me. And so it feels like the reason I was laughing is because it feels like there's this part of you that doesn't believe all the way. Like, I feel like you're like 85% there. Like, you feel like you're 85% worthy, but there's this 15% that feels like, yeah, but, and I feel like the universe is like, shut the fuck up. Like, the times that you are like, yeah, but like, that doesn't happen for me. Like, that doesn't that's not real. That happens in movies. That doesn't happen to me. Like, that's not, everybody else gets that. I don't get that. The universe is like, shut up. Like, oh my, can you stop? Like, like, shush. So this is what you want, and it's coming for you. It's like things are already in motion. Like, I'm seeing kind of like a really big old clock where like the gears are all starting to turn. They're turning slowly. And they're turning so slowly that you don't realize that it's happening, because the universe is like, hey, hey fucker, we're not going to let you self-sabotage this. I don't know if that's just the way the universe talks to me, but that's what you're getting. So maybe maybe it's coming through that way, because it's like Kathy will get it if we explain it this way. She'll get it to group number 3 and they'll get it. So to go back to this, you've got this mental balancing, like this kind of mental gymnastics, and, you know, kind of, it's almost like you're always trying to figure out, how do I make this happen? How do I get into a place where I'm worthy to receive this? How do I raise my vibration? How do I manifest this? And that's the fun thing about manifesting, is like when we try to take over the universe's job of managing the how, then it really just kind of messes things up. Refer back to me saying that the movement is so slow so that you can't self-sabotage. And the shift your perspective card, like, I love all these little kind of, all these little things around here, right? Because it's like, this is all the distraction of like, well, how do I get more worthy? And how do I meet people? And how do I have my happily ever after? And like, how do I change this about myself? And how? And from this middle part, it's almost like getting cleared out. It's like opening up. And this shift your perspective message is, it feels like, stay in your lane. Just stay in your lane, please. I feel like that's what the universe is saying. Like, shift your perspective from focusing on what my lane is, and you get in your lane. What is your responsibility? What do you need to be doing? Is your job the how? Is your job the how? Is your job the how, group number 3? No, your job is not the how. Your job is to surrender and trust. And to lean into this soul balancing instead of this mental balancing. Like, instead of trying to think your way to your manifestation, which is already coming, focus on listening, focus on trusting your soul, focus on balancing. You know, the swords are about the mind, and like in the, like, I think it's in the traditional tarot, like the scales are balanced based on the value of our heart. And so typically the scales will have a heart and a feather. And so the story behind that is that like only those who have a heart as light as a feather can be, you know, that's how you judge if someone is worthy of entering the kingdom of heaven. If they have a heart that's as light as a feather, and that's what the scale is for, right? So it kind of, I guess, touching on like some kind of biblical religious stuff, like ensuring that you have a pure heart or a light heart. And I feel like the thinking, right? The thinking, the overthinking, that makes our hearts very heavy because we can't control any of that stuff that we're thinking about. All these hows, like the spiritual, the divine, the unseen happens in its own time, and we are tangible, right? So it's almost like thinking about how to make something manifest is kind of like trying to think your way into figuring out how to breathe underwater or how to breathe water. Like you can't think your way into that. Like you're not a dolphin, or well, dolphins breathe air. Like you're not you're not a lobster. Like you can't breathe water. You can't think your way into breathing water. Like you can't think your way into figuring out how to manifest something that comes from the divine. I hope that makes sense. Because I feel like it's kind of it's not hard to explain. I feel like manifestation is so nuanced, and like everybody and their mom has a YouTube video on how to manifest, or like a free PDF book, or like a meditation or whatever. And I feel like the guidance that you're getting is, it's not that you're being told not to manifest things. The guidance that the fork in the road for you is, do you want to trust your brain or do you want to trust your soul? Do you want to drive the car or do you want to be the passenger to the universe? Because the universe is going here. Do you know how to get here? Like, you know what this looks like, right? But is your GPS calibrated for this? Do you have a map? Have you ever been there? Will you know it when you see it? Do you know where this is? Or are you just going to drive around for decades before you realize this isn't even in, like, you're on the wrong side of the city, state, country, continent, planet? You know, I feel like that's the crossroads that you're at. And so with this soul wisdom, you know, we've got this justice, and she has this little symbol over her third eye. This oracle card has a giant third eye on it, and it says your mind is an altar to source energy. What does that mean? That means if you want to allow your soul to drive the car, if you want to learn how to surrender to soul guidance that is coming for you, that wants for you to have clarity of mind, that wants you to have lightness of heart, you need to use your mind. You need to open your mind, open your third eye to be an altar for source energy. What is an altar? An altar is a sacred space that we set aside to commune with spirit. Some people like to put things on their altar. Some people like to put tarot cards on their altar. Some people like to put flowers. Some people like to put offerings. My altar is really just a giant bookcase of all my tarot cards and like most of my crystals. Sometimes like I'll light a candle, sometimes I'll burn incense, but that is a sacred space that is only for those things, right? Like I don't put, I don't put books up there. I don't put other things up there. It's like that bookcase was bought for these things. It houses these things. It's where these things live. It's a safe space that I store them, right? And so when we think about making your mind an altar for source energy, you are setting aside this sacred space to receive, to create a space to receive from God's source spirit, or to let God's source spirit know this is a sacred space that is just for you. Because for me, like tarot cards are how like God Source Spirit communicates with me. I mean, as well as my intuition, but like when I need a lot of clarity, like the, pictures and messages, like that's how Source speaks to me. And so to make your mind an altar is to clear out space in your mind, to open a space, to say to God Source Spirit, like, this is a space for you to come in, where you are welcome, where I am happy to meet you and commune with you. I'm happy to receive messages from you. I have, maybe made this space more sacred by bringing in music for meditation, by blocking off time, by putting my phone on Do Not Disturb, by intentionally walking in the forest or walking on a trail or being out in nature with no distractions, so that that space and my mind are open for you to join me there, or to give me messages, or to send me energy or guidance, or whatever it is that you want to give me or not give me. Whether you show up or not, this altar space in my mind has been set aside intentionally so that I can connect with you. And that is how you open that space for this soul wisdom, this soul guidance to come in, so that you're not running things off of what your ego mind is telling you you need to be doing. Because we look at these two, what is the big difference? Like right off the bat. I mean, there's quite a few, but the big difference is one of them is missing the clarity of sight, and one of them has eyes wide open, posture forward, open arms, like the ego is the little mind, and like the soul is like the big wisdom, right? So it's like you can either allow your ego mind to continue to run things, and I feel like you'll eventually get here, or you can shift your perspective. You can make that altar space in your mind to commune with your soul, to commune with God's Source Spirit, to develop a relationship with God's Source Spirit. And I feel like be in the flow. And it's almost like you creating this sacred space in your mind for like the universe to connect with you is almost going to put you in this picture, and like you'll be poured out into the flow of things, and that flow will carry you where you need to go. So it's almost like if you can tune in with your soul, if you can start to clear your mind of figuring out the how, this is going to happen much faster. Okay, so that's the first part. So that's your crossroads. Do you want to listen to your ego mind, or do you want to start to come into a spiritual practice where you can tune in with your soul? No big deal, just small things, And then next we have all of this really big energy, and it's all really beautiful, positive energy. Sorry, I'm kind of looking at it all kind of like soaking it all in, drinking it all in. So we've got this Empress here and the Trust card. This Trust card says, I accept that my inner voice will always guide me correctly. Yep, inner voice, still small voice of God, Source, Spirit, our soul. The Empress is a card of abundance. She's got this little Venus here because the Empress is associated with Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. Love, value, beauty, abundance, prosperity. This pomegranate also is kind of this symbol of almost like luxury in a way, because like pomegranates are such a like they're synonymous with abundance, but also with being really rare, that like it's not that they're a rare fruit that's hard to find, it's that I don't know, there's just something about them that is, there's like a rarity to them, like energetically. I don't know how to describe it. But you're coming into this Empress energy. It really feels like when you can allow yourself to come into creating this space with your soul, like when you can create that space in your mind to give your soul space to commune with you, give God, source, spirit space to commune with you, this all happens. And so as you learn to trust your soul, like you're going to come into this flow, and it's going to kind of bring you into this more feminine, surrender, trusting energy. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to like become a more feminine person, like regardless of what your gender is or how you identify, but the energy, like the feminine receptive energy really has to do with like surrender and trust. And I say that because typically the Empress is on like a lot of traditional tarot cards, or a lot of tarot cards, she'll be depicted as pregnant, like being abundant, you know, with health, abundant with child. But thinking about like the process of pregnancy, there's not really a whole lot of control to it, right? There's only so much that you can do, you know, that you, especially if you're someone that's like having your first child, like if you're trying to get pregnant, maybe you're taking your prenatal vitamins and like you're trying to get exercise and like you're trying to eat all the good foods. But like once you become pregnant, well, you don't have any control over getting pregnant, you know, like you could do the things to try, but you know, there's like the human body, like we don't always know, you know, how our bodies are going to be when they're doing something they've never done before. Also, like many of us don't know if we have like genetic predispositions for things, right? So it's like you can, I don't know, have high blood pressure with one pregnancy and not with the other, or you know, like doctors can tell you what they think the due date is, and if you choose to, you know, not have a C-section and like you choose to just wait for the baby to come out, like that baby could get there late. So this, you know, tuning in with your soul is going to lead you to really embodying this energy of like trust and surrender in lots of things that like you were not able to trust and surrender in before, you know. And so a lot of these things feel like spiritual things, but they also feel like very tangible things that like, you know, surrendering to the divine timing of things and trusting that like the universe is bringing you to your happily ever after in the right time for you and all the people that are involved, for everyone's best, highest good. You know, those are some of those really spiritual things, but also kind of practical things where like, let's say you are working somewhere and you really don't like working there, or maybe you want to make a career change and you kind of have an idea, but you're not really sure which way to go. And it would maybe require some additional education, or it would require like a certification. You're kind of on the fence. Maybe you're between two different things. And so you just decide, you know what, God, source, spirit, I trust you to guide me in which way you need me to go in the timing that you're guiding me to get there. And you kind of just let it go, knowing, trusting, accepting that inner voice or that inner nudge, or however the universe connects to you or communicates with you, will let you know when the time's right, you know. And sometimes that comes in the form of, I don't know, like running into somebody you haven't seen in a while, and they are actually doing the job that you were thinking about shifting into, and they're like, oh God, I hate it. Like, don't do it. Or they might be like, oh, you would love it. You would love it. If you ever want to come hang out with me at work, like I can kind of show you what it's like. So you can just get an idea of like, if you really want to get this certification, or, you know, even like wanting to work somewhere else, you know, or maybe even being on the fence about like working, you know, maybe you are tired of like working for someone else and you want to be an entrepreneur and you're not sure what to do. And then you get laid off, and it's like, well, that's a big sign. That's a big sign that it looks like I'm free to be an entrepreneur now. So, you know, that's kind of the more tangible ways that like we can see the universe's influence in our life when we start to trust and surrender more. Next, we have this World card. And self-esteem. I possess gifts of the soul that benefit me and others. The World card is about ending cycles, things coming to a close. It's the last card in the major arcana. And we see these, you know, these point shoes, and this person's like dancing. There's typically an angel in the World card. maybe not an angel. It's like a woman that's in the center of kind of this wreath. And she's kind of floating. So I guess that's why I think of her as an angel. But with these little point shoes on, it's more like she's kind of dancing, right? There's just celebration. It's like a culmination, a completion, a graduation, getting to the end of a cycle of something. And so it feels like it's counterintuitive, because the world teaches us that we have to figure everything out, that our brain is where our confidence comes from. The brain is where our decisions come from. Like, if you don't use your brain, then how do you make a good decision? How do you know what you're supposed to do? And you shifting into hearing your soul, following your soul, making space for your soul to commune with you is ending this, almost like this cycle of inauthenticity. That like you lived a life the way that you thought that you were supposed to, and you were doing it because, well, one, that's what you're told, but also like there was this deep belief that like if I do what I'm supposed to do, everything will work out for me, and like I'll have my happily ever after. And unfortunately, like that's not what happened. But also like it was never going to, like, the system delivers the programming that benefits the system. And if that means that the system lies to you about like, yeah, if you're a good girl or a good boy, you get a reward in the end and you get to pick your prize. And you know, being a good girl or a good boy means that you have to do X, Y, and Z. And you're like, okay, I know my prize that I want, and I'm happy to do X, Y, Z. And then you realize after you finish Y that like, this is never going to come through that. And that like, it's actually not X, Y, Z. It's like X, Y, A, B, C, D. And you're, you know, like you get caught in this cycle, this grind, this hustle. And I feel like that's ending for you. And that the world has said, if you don't use your mind, then you can't do things. And the counterintuitive part of that is that like, if you do use your mind, it makes it a lot more difficult to partner and collaborate with the universe, which is how you receive things more quickly, how you get to the things that are meant for you more quickly. And because you're ending this cycle of listening to your mind, like you're going to there's so many gifts that are going to be a byproduct of you making that communal space to connect with God's source spirit. Yeah. And I feel like there's going to be a point in time when you're so far from this programming. And like that could be time far, that could be habit far, like far is subjective, but like you've been out of the habit of using your mind for so long that like it's weird to you when you think about the time before you actually knew your gifts and when you were actually using your gifts. So like you being in tune with your gifts and using your gifts the way that you're surrendering and trusting as an operating system in your life, like that's going to become so much of second nature to the way that you exist that it's going to be weird to think about the time before you like were in tune with your gifts. And then finally we have the Sun card. This is like the most positive card in the tarot aside from the star. But you know, the sun is a star. So same. We've got this guilt card and it says, I release any beliefs that no longer assist in my soul's growth. Yeah. I love that like the swirl and the circle of the sun are very similar. You know, like the energy is the same to me. The sun, it's this energy of joy. It's this energy of contentment. It's this energy of happiness. It's this very light, that light-hearted energy, right? The heart as light as a feather. It's clarity, right? Because like when the sun lights everything up. We can see it all. Like when we're in the darkness of a crescent moon, it's hard to see anything. Even when the moon is full at night, it's like there's light, but everything's off. It's a little bit weird. In the brightness of the sun, it's like everything's clear. Everything makes sense. And it's almost like it's easy to let go of the things that don't serve you when you have this clarity. And you're still, you know, you're at this precipice, right? Like right now you're still in this place where you're trying to navigate a world that is really dark, even though you're told that it's not, you know. So there's like a little bit of like gaslighting around, like, well, this is how everybody does, this is what you're supposed to do. And you're shifting out of that, you know, that like this crossroads is really about trusting, right? Trusting God's source spirit, like trusting doing some deeper work, trusting moving into spaces that you haven't been in before, doing things in a different way, a very different way, like radically different, to the point that there's like a little bit of fear because you've done this for so long. This is all you've known. And so like that trusting feels really hard and really scary. And I feel like it's different decks, but they're all related, right? Where it's almost like this is a flow of things that like you've got two options, right? This Two of Swords, two options. You can continue to do it the way that you've always done it and continue to not get what it is that you know that you want and deserve. Or you can try a new way that is totally foreign, that you can't see the path ahead for because you've never been down that path. Each step that you take on this path is brand new to you. Holding on to this faith that, you know, you can trust the universe to take you to these things. And I feel like you're going to have these things along the way too. It's like whatever your ultimate happily ever after is, there's other things along the way that you also want, you know? So it's not like you're going to be walking cross country for 10 years to get to this. It's like, you know, maybe you take a bus and then you get to this one place and it's like you have this really positive thing happen that you have always wanted. Maybe you're like, I really want to make friends with a raccoon. I don't know. Like you take your bus and then you get to this place that's like a raccoon rescue, and then you make a bunch of raccoon friends, and it's like, this is amazing because I trusted the universe to get on this bus. And then you go to the next stop and then like something else happens and like something else happens, and like this sun card, it's a good omen that like positive things are coming, that like brighter days are ahead, you know, that these difficult cycles have ended, that there's prosperity and abundance. And like, how do we know that we are in abundance? Because we continue to receive things, right? Like having one pomegranate is, you know, there's a lot of seeds in a pomegranate, so that's abundance, right? But like having someone bring you a pomegranate every single day, when you haven't eaten the first one, now you have two. You're just one person, and one pomegranate was a lot. So now you have a lot more, and you continue to receive things as you're going on this journey. And it's like, that's how you know that you're abundant. The things keep coming in, the things keep coming to you. Like the more you trust, the more you receive, because the more open you are, the more open space you've made for yourself to commune with the universe, the more space there is for the universe to like leave you little gifts and things. And for some reason, like trinkets came to my mind. So I don't know if you're trying to manifest a little, and maybe it's not trinkets, maybe it's just like these small little kind of delights that that are significant for you. They mean something, right? Because like trinkets, like the trinkets that are valuable to me are not going to be valuable to other people. But like, you know, when you see something that's like really small and it's like, this, what does this even mean to the person that values it? It means a lot. I think that's why the word trinket came up. But yeah, this is the first step, right? This choice, this is the first step. And it really, like, it's almost like once you make that decision to trust your soul, it's all so much good stuff. Like, it really is kind of like that saying, you know, where it's like you just have to take the first step. You don't have to climb the whole staircase. You just have to take the first step. Yeah, and it really feels like this relationship, you know, in here is the first step is choosing to reach out and take the hand of the universe, choosing to partner with the universe, trusting that, like, it's safe to take this step. It's safe to do this one thing. Oh, this is lovely. What a good reading. Okay. Group number 3. This has been your reading. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it, like, made your heart happy and it didn't trigger your brain too much into freaking out because it's maybe going to lose a little bit of power over the wheel, as it should, because our egos it's being human's weird. But I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it gave you, like, a lot of encouragement and support, and that you're excited for all these, like, amazing positive things that are coming for you. I'm excited for you. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for letting me read your cards. If you enjoyed this reading, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. If you feel called to leave a comment, I would love to read your comment and respond to it as well. So I just want to say thank you for being here, and I hope that you have a lovely day or night whenever you watch this. So I will see you next time. Bye.